There we go.
So folks, you've heard all that. Do you really want to take tips and tricks from the likes of us? Good morning, and welcome to CAD-1's AutoCAD Tips and Tricks. I'm Tips, and he's Tricks.
And I'm Tricks.
And we all know that tricks are for kids. Anyway, my name's Stan Henney. I'm the Business Development Manager here at CAD-1, and I have with me today Mr. Warren Geisler, ACI, who will be doing the tips and tricks portion today. Warren is our Training Center Manager and our Technical Manager here at CAD-1, as well as just an all-around great AutoCAD and GIS guy. So with that, let's get started, move through the next slide. We have a housekeeping slide that we always show just so people know. Anybody who hasn't been on a go-to meeting at this point is probably
a little bit lost.
Shouldn't be on here anyway, but nonetheless.
Well, I'd like to show this off, and if everybody can hear us, or if you can hear us, or if you're having any problems, and let us know. But you've got in your little browser window, the go-to webinar window there, you've got a little raise your hand button.
Hit the raise your hand button.
If you can hear us, raise your hand. If you can't hear us, then all of this is for naught. Yeah. Well, Chris is flashing that he can raise. There we go. We've got a couple people. So
Raisin and Lauren.
It would appear that a few of you can hear us. That's awesome. Those of you who did not raise your hands, hopefully you turn up your speakers. You're coming back from a bathroom break or whatever it is. I'm going to go ahead and lower all the hands.
Now, if you want to ask questions during the context of this webinar, this webinar is not like our Revit Radio or AutoCAD Answers or Civil Chat where we just answer your questions willy-nilly here. This is a planned webinar. So, but if you have questions that are in context with the webinar, please feel free to ask them, and we'll post them. And because this is one of our planned webinars, we are recording it, and it will be available for you to watch late one night in the very near future.
In the near future, up on our YouTube channel.
That's right. So let's see what we've got next on the old slide console there. Breaking news.
We just heard about this morning, so I'm going to let Stan chat about this.
And this is, we're kidding a little bit, but it's fairly important for people to know as you're kind of planning out your software usage and purchases and so forth over the next couple years. As everybody has probably heard by now, Autodesk is transitioning to what they call desktop subscription, what the rest of us call rental market, for all of their software over the next couple years. Now, as of January 31st, 2016, so this coming January 31st, that will be the last day you can buy single product perpetual licenses. In other words, what we all think of as the box or the software you own and then pay maintenance subscription on. We had been told more or less all along that then the following year, on January 31st, 2017, the suites would no longer be sold as perpetual license, and at that point everything would go on as a rental license. We found out this morning that they've bumped up the time frame that you will no longer be able to purchase the perpetual license of suites to essentially June 30th of 2016. So next June 30th, after the first
July 30th.
Was it July 30th?
Yes, July 31st.
Good. I couldn't figure out why they were doing it with June 30th because anyway, I read that wrong. Anyway, July 30th. Nonetheless, you have about half a year less time to get this done than possible. Now, I do want to state that, don't worry about it. I mean, if you have plenty of seats and you pay your maintenance subscription every year and so forth and so on, you'll be fine. You'll keep using your AutoCAD or your Revit structure or your whatever it is. And
well, hopefully, if you're on this webinar, you're not using Revit structure.
Well, that's true, but you might be doing AutoCAD drawings
or something.
Anyway, whatever the case, just pay your maintenance subscription. You'll be fine. You won't if you drop off your maintenance subscription, though, then the only way to get back on and get current is by doing the rentals. Nothing wrong with the rentals, but they are going to cost more over time.
And it's not going to affect any of your current licenses. They're not going to migrate your current perpetual licenses over. This is for all new purchases. So if you've got 20 seats of AutoCAD, you can keep doing business as usual. But if you hire that 21st person after the January timeframe and you need a standalone or a suite after the July timeframe, then you're going to be doing a rental licenses. This is also going to affect your network licensing. So if you've already got a network license of 20 seats for your office, and then after that time frame you want to add an additional license, your network license will shift a little bit. And hopefully here in the future, we're going to have a webinar that's going to talk about how that's going to affect everybody.
It's really kind of, there's some of this stuff that's really kind of confusing, so stick with us and we'll confuse each other.
Yeah, if you think you're confused about all of this, don't worry, you're not alone.
All right, Warren, let's move on past this now.
Okay, so getting past that, talk a little bit about myself and why I'm doing the tips and tricks. So I've been using AutoCAD for quite some time, as you see there, since 1990. Learned it in the Air Force and did use it in production environment in civil engineering and in the Air Force while I was stationed down in New Mexico. I've been a CAD manager here in Colorado, and over 15 years instruction and doing support for Autodesk applications. So my current role here at CAD-1 enables me to teach some of the classes for AutoCAD, some of the fundamentals classes, the advanced classes, the 3D classes. So I try to keep my hands into everything AutoCAD related, as well as map and some of the civil 3D stuff. So I've been using it for quite some time. And yes, that is a picture of me early in the morning when I wake up.
And sometimes when you come in.
And sometimes when I come in. So what are we here to talk about is tips and tricks. And now for any of you who have ever been in on one of our customer appreciation days or any of the times that I've done tips and tricks, you already know what's about to happen. For those of you who've not seen me do a tips and tricks, let me give you a quick heads up warning. I put both words in there and I mean both words, tips and tricks. So if you're easily offended by tricks and things like that that may happen to computers, this may not be the webinar for you. Now there's a reason that I like showing some of the tricks that I do, and it's not just so you can play tricks on people in your office and upset everybody who's using AutoCAD. It's because a lot of the times that something will happen on a computer, people wonder what's going wrong and they'll try to fix it, and it's not necessarily a bug, maybe it's a setting, maybe it's something that somebody typed in and it's just goofing them up.
And then it gets worse.
And then it gets worse and worse, and people are, and it's an intended use of the program. So some of these things that I'll be showing you, you may consider bugs or something wrong with the program. No, it's an intended tool set inside the program. Some of them I'm going to show you may be considered to be tools or not tools, but real tricks. But there are going to be a lot of tips, things that will help your productivity out during the day. These are little things that I've learned over the years. These are things that have been around the program for quite some time, and then some new features. So with that,
here we go.
Here are a few of my favorite things to talk about. And as Stan mentioned, this is we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's kind of scripted. I've got an idea of what we're going to go over, but if you've got a question about anything that I'm covering, or if you've got something that you want to throw out there, by all means, go ahead and throw the question out there, and hopefully we'll get it.
2014. This is the latest version.
This is the latest version. Like that. Oh, you've never seen that before. Oh, latest version, blue screen of death. Oh my gosh. That's my first trick. By the way, you can find that image out on the internet. You can put that on somebody's screensaver. That would be kind of funny, somebody's screensaver. Okay, let me jump into the program. So we are using AutoCAD. This is the full-blown version of AutoCAD. Everything I'm going to show you, for the most part, everything I'm going to show you, except for maybe one or two of the tricks, you'll be able to do in AutoCAD LT. And for those of you who are using one of the vertical applications based on AutoCAD, such as AutoCAD Map, Civil 3D, AUD, one of those, then everything I'm showing you, you will be able to do. So first with some of the tips. A couple of my favorite commands. A lot of people don't know about these commands. I find them extremely handy. The first one that I like to talk about is a standard one that's been around for a while. It's an AutoCAD. It's the AutoCAD align command. So here's a classic example that in mapping or in civil engineering and surveying we have to deal with quite frequently. Is I've got a building here that I've just been given by an architect. It's really well drawn. It's got all the information. However, that line right there needs to line up with this property line. And you know that that's a property line. Why? Because it's telling you right there that it's a property line. Okay, so I need to line that up. So basically when you think about this, I need to move it from endpoint to endpoint. I need to do some kind of rotate, some type of reference system with the rotate. I need to use the parallel OSNAP. I mean, that's a real hassle. But one of my favorite all-time AutoCAD commands is the align command. So, and here's another thing. And this is kind of a new feature that I always like to tout. So for those of you who are using an earlier version of the program and like to type in commands, like some of us do, it's pretty cool that AutoCAD now has the autocomplete tool set down here. And this has only been around for a few years. So we've got the autocomplete. As I start typing things in, AutoCAD will try to figure out what it is that I want. But here's something that a lot of people don't know about with the newer, like 15 and 16 versions of the software. Now, Stan's seen me do a lot of webinars and a lot of classes, and he knows that I type with 2, sometimes 3 whole fingers.
That's right.
And I don't type so well, folks. I never learned touch typing when I was a kid. I should have. So sometimes I don't spell so good on the keyboard, and it's not that I'm spelling badly, it's just my fingers don't know what they're doing. So if I were to type something incorrectly, if you look at my command line, I'm not typing that correctly, but I've got autocorrect, and that's a really cool new feature. So I really like that. If you haven't seen that, you may want to take a look at it. And AutoCAD has some really neat tools where you can add in autocorrect or add in things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to use the align command. Start this command, and the program's asking me to select object. Okay, which objects do I select? So here's another little tip for everybody. Always remember, and I know that those of you who have a laptop keyboard are kind of fed up with this whole escape key being so close to the F1 key, but the F1 key is your friend. You should be using it. A lot of people don't know or don't remember that if I'm in the middle of a command that I learned on, I don't know, let's say AutoCAD Tips and Trips webinar.
Yeah.
Then tips and tricks webinar. Then, and I want to know more about this command. I remember Warren told me about the align command, but I don't remember exactly how to use it. Here's something. Don't forget that while you're in the middle of the command, if you hit F1, the program's going to bring up context-sensitive help, and it's going to talk about, and of course, that's the one time it didn't work.
Oh, man.
But normally, when you're in the middle of a command, and you hit F1 in the middle of a command, the program is going to bring up the context-sensitive help. Then it's going to tell you all about the command, about what it does, how to use it, all your command line options. So it's a quick and easy way to learn about it. As you noticed, as I was typing it in at the command line, it would bring up tooltips. So always remember F1, and F1 is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I need to move the building. I need to get everybody into place here. Grab all of these objects. I want to align them up. First source point. So what I need to do is I need to move it from endpoint to endpoint. From here down to there. And we all know our object snaps and all of that. But here's another little tip for you is if you use your keyboard quite a bit, and if, you know, the fastest way that I've told people to work with AutoCAD is to have one hand on the keyboard, one hand on the mouse. Left hand on the keyboard, right hand on the mouse, or vice versa if you're left hand mouse. But if you do a shift right click, you bring up your temporary OSNAP overrides. Now, a lot of people already know this one, but did you know that if you type in the appropriate letter, you can activate those pretty quickly and easily? So if I, as an example, wanted to draw a line from an endpoint to a center point, and you hardly see that thing coming up, just doing a shift right click and hitting the appropriate letter, and shift right click, endpoint, and the appropriate letter, etc., back and forth and back and forth. So that shift right click is a huge time saver. And here's why it's a huge time saver. Rather than coming down to your standard AutoCAD object snap, trying to figure out which ones that you're going to be using most often, turning them on, turning them off, having them running all the time, running object snaps, depending on the application that you're using and depending on the complexity of your drawing, can be a very, very evil thing. If I have a running object snap and I want to move something and I move a bunch of objects and start moving my mouse around, my object snaps are overriding everything I'm doing, and I'm having a hard time. But if I can activate them just as I need them, shift right click,
Shift right click.
shift right click.
There you go.
Now, a lot of people have also asked, okay, so what are those special letters? I mean, some of them make sense, E for endpoint, M for midpoint, but how do I find out what those special letters are? And I want to thank somebody, I can't remember exactly who, from DIA, who figured this one out quickly. Now, there are ways inside of Windows to tell the program to show you the underlined letters, and I honestly don't know what all those keystrokes and underlined letters are. But here's a neat little trick. If you do the shift right click and then do it again, just move your mouse just to the side, it'll show you what the underlying letters are. Didn't know that one. I just learned that one yesterday. So I want to thank the folks out at DIA for that little trick.
Cool tip.
That is a neat little tip. So if you want to know what those little letters are, there's a quick way of doing it. So one of the fastest drafting things I saw on a competition, and this was for an AutoCAD camp many, many years ago, and they were doing a drafting competition. And I was watching this young lady who was doing drafting and doing that shift right click E and shift right click C. And I knew the shift right click tool, but I would have to go up and down and search for it and pick it out of the list. And if you know the letters and if you can, do the touch typing, I always have to watch the keyboard instead of doing the touch typing. But if you know the letters, you can just hit those. And I was watching her, and she was just boogieing through a lot of her stuff very, very fast. So this is a huge time saver. So back to the align command, which is another time saver. I need to move this guy, and I need to align that endpoint with that endpoint right there. So it's going to move it, but how do I rotate it? Well, second one. I need to align that endpoint with the opposite endpoint. Now the program's going to ask me for a third point. That's for if we're working in 3D and I need to move it X, Y, and Z. And I'm not working in 3D right now, so I'm just going to tell the program to continue. And then the last thing is, do I want to scale the building up to that line? You can scale objects. It's a move, rotate, and scale. I'm just going to say no. And it's a quick move, rotate. Look at that.
Holy cow.
That was fast, wasn't it? And we need to do this quite a bit in certain industries. I've drawn it up, and now I need to pick it up and move it into place. So like I said, a lot of people know a long workflow with this. I can do a move, and then I can do a rotate. I can do a rotate reference. Okay, Control Z. Rotate reference, let's talk about that quickly because a lot of people don't know what I mean. Rotate and scale both have a reference option. I need to rotate this line so that it matches that line. Now, I can use the align command, right? I just showed you the align. I don't want to move it, though. I just want to rotate it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to use the rotate command. Another little tip for you. I'm going to use that shift right click endpoint. And I'm rotate, but now, how do I get that? I'm going to eyeball it. No,
you're not.
No, you're not. AutoCAD thinks
That
to 16
never
decimal places, and I can guarantee you your eyeballs aren't good enough. So how do I get this to rotate? Well, if you're in the middle of the rotate and in the scale command, if you look down at my command line, I've got an option there called reference. And that means that rather than using 0 angle as my reference angle, 0 means nothing to me, I want to change my reference angle and change it to this endpoint, to that opposite endpoint, and now I'm rotating and I've changed my reference angle. So that's the rotate reference that I keep talking about. Now how do I get it in here? My favorite object snap when it came out years ago. I was so happy about this one, and that's the parallel object snap. If you've not played with this, you definitely need to. You need to rotate something until it is parallel to that line, hover over it, pull away, and then all of a sudden I'm lighting up, and I've now rotated reference parallel. So there's another couple of tips for you that will hopefully save you a lot of time.
That's just neater than snakes, Warren.
Neater than snakes on a plane. I have seen people who do things like they will grab this, go to the properties window, and list the angle that this object is at, write down the angle, and then say I need to rotate it with an angle of -33 or something along those. That's a lot of math. Have the program do the math for you. Have them take care of it. Okay, so another thing that I really like, another little tip, and this came out a few years ago. As a matter of fact, it kind of took us by surprise that several of us CAD instructors didn't know about it.
It's automatic plug removal, is it?
It's the erase command and the automatic plug removal. No. It's the copy command. I want to copy this plug, and I want to copy it a few times up this wall. So I'm just going to use the AutoCAD. Whoops! I'm just going to use the AutoCAD copy command and grab my plug and hit enter. It's going to ask me for the base point, which again, I want to use that end point right there. But what I need is I need 5 of them along this distance right here. Oh, that's the array command. But the array command is a little bit cumbersome. I just want to use the copy command. In the middle of the copy command, this came out in about 2013, if I remember right, 2012, 2013 version. But in the middle of the copy command, take a look at my command line. Well, nobody looks at the command line anymore, right, Sam?
No,
Nobody looks at the command line.
All these people on this webinar don't even know what you're talking about.
That's right. Everybody shuts off their command line because nobody even looks at the command line anymore. But if you look down at my command line, I've got an option called array. I need 5 of these objects copied, and check it out. Now I can do an array in any direction that I want. So if I need to array these, I can use this as a one-time that I like using the nearest object snap, so I can make sure I'm on this wall. I'll pull my mouse up here, say I've just arrayed them, and it just made copies. So it's being able to do basically an array multiple copy in the middle of the copy command. The array option, relatively new. It's one of my favorite tips right there. It's a huge time saver. Because what did we used to do? All right, some of you out there probably are doing this today. You would use the copy command, grab this, you'd pick the endpoint, you'd pull up, and say I want to copy it up to that point, and then you pull up, say copy it to that point, or typing in numbers to say I want to copy it. So if I want to copy it every 3 feet, then I type in 3, and then I type in 6, and then I have to do all that math again. I don't want to do that. Math is no fun. Just ask my wife. She hates math. Alrighty. Couple other things that I really like. You'll notice that as I'm doing all of my commands, I am relying on the command line. Many years ago, Autodesk enabled us to use this neat little tool down here in my command line called Dynamic Input. Dynamic input, what does that do? Well, we've all turned it on, we've all played with it. That means that when I'm drawing a line, everything appears right in front of my crosshairs. So Autodesk incorporated this as what they called heads-up design and heads-up drafting. I don't have to look at the command line anymore. I can just use this. I can say, there's my first point, and then I can type in distances. And the problem is that a lot of people get really annoyed because there's just way too much going on.
Stuff in the way.
There's all that stuff in the way. What if I'm just using my polar tracking, and I just want to go 3 feet in this direction and 4 feet, and I don't need all this stuff in my, look at all that, it's all in the way. People go, oh, I turned that off. I can't tell you how many people looked at that and they go, oh, I don't use that, I've turned that off, I don't use that, we don't like it.
No.
Here's where it comes in handy, and I'll be quite honest with you folks, especially when I'm doing a lot of design, I don't use it for when I'm doing my layout drafting either, but here's where it comes in handy. I need to know how long this line is. What do? You use the list command, right? I type in the word list, I pick it, I read the list. Or some people go, well, I'm going to grab it, go over to the properties window. Or, you know what's quicker is if I turn on my dynamic input, I just hover over it right there and it tells me. It tells me the length, it tells me the angle right there in front of me.
There's a time saver,
brother. That's a big time saver right there. But wait, there's more.
Bob's your uncle.
And Bob's your uncle. When I'm doing this, I look at this and I go, well, that line is actually 50 foot, 8 3/4 inches. And no, actually, it needs to be 50 foot even. With that dynamic input turned on, if I highlight one of my grips and I tab over, I can tell the program exactly how long I want that line to be. I want that line to be 50 foot even. And I just type that in and hit enter. And that's not something you can do through the properties window. I can see the length of the line. I can see the angle of the line, but I can't change any of those things. So I can do that quickly and easily by using dynamic input. So every time I go to an office and I'm looking at how people are doing editing, a lot of people will come down here and they will look at that. I can do a stretch or lengthen, and I can go through all of those command line prompts and all of that. No, that's just too much of a hassle. It's going to tab over. Maybe I need to change that 3 degrees to 45 degrees. Okay, it's now a 45-degree line. Just by tabbing over with the dynamic input. When I'm done with the dynamic input, I can always just turn that thing off.
Warren, there's over 3,000 people in the audience today. That means that you saved almost 7 drafting years. Just with that tip.
Just with that one little tip. Now, a lot of people will look down, if you're using 2015 and 2016, you'll notice that your toolbox down here has changed, and not all of the buttons are available, so a quick reminder, If you hit the little customization button down at the bottom right, that's where you can find things like your dynamic input and all of the rest of your buttons to enable them to make them visible on your screen so you can use them. And if there's some things that you don't like, you can always turn those off as well. So there's a handful of really cool time-saving tips for you, but what about some tricks? Okay, these are time savers. Couple of them that are my favorite, and for those of you CAD managers out there, you're going to really like a couple of them. There's my first one. Autodesk in this program has incorporated a command called Undefined. This can be put in a Lisp routine. It can be put in your AutoCAD Lisp that loads, or your AutoCAD doc Lisp that loads with every one of your commands. Undefined. You type in undefined. You type in the name of the command that you want to undefine, such as, I don't know, erase. And then the program, you will no longer be able to erase anything. So I type E for erase, and the program says, no, that was exit. No, I didn't mean to exit. Hey, wait a minute, I'm spelling that correctly. Where's my erase command? So undefined will help you remove a command. How do you get it back? Well, redefine is the name of the command that you can use to erase, which is always kind of fun. It's a neat little tool for CAD managers to help remove some commands that maybe they don't want people to get into. Hint, hint, hint. Right. Such as things like options, or some of those other commands, some of those other areas that you may have one or two users that you don't want them getting into some commands. Now, a little bit less stringent than that is there's a tool set that you can use that will help maybe give people some heads up or some warnings. So a little bit of Lisp for you. Lisp coding, I love that.
I can't believe that we're still talking about Lisp.
We're still talking about Lisp. 70s, Lisp was invented as a language, and Autodesk incorporated that as part of their programming languages. So, AutoLisp, Lisp. And I'm not going to teach you how to read Lisp or how to use a whole lot of Lisp or how to do Visual Basic or Visual Lisp or anything else like that. Lisp is just a series of commands that you can incorporate into any one of your macros or any one of your buttons, and they usually start with parentheses. So let me give you a little bit of quick Lisp in here. There's a Lisp command called alert. In parentheses, type in alert, and when you give it an alert, it will pop up for you. So as an example, I can put in alert, and then in quotes, I'm going to ask for a particular alert. And the dialog box will pop up. This is a simple piece of code. Look down there, alert, and anything that you want. And you can take this code and you can use your customizable user interface or CUI command to enter this into any one of the buttons that you want. Any kind of alert, throw it into any button that you want. Yes, it's a fun trick to play on people, but it's also a great little tip there that will help you manage people and keep them away from certain commands, such as one of my least favorite commands ever, the explode command. I click that button and I get a warning dialog box that keeps me from using a command that may be wrong, a bad command. I hate the explode command. It gets more people into more trouble, let me tell you. So the alert command, you can plug that into anywhere. Neat little trick for people, let me tell you. So the, here's another little thing about that whole undefined command. So let's say I do undefine the erase command. Somebody comes up here to hit the erase button. It says unknown command erase. So they're going a little bit crazy. How do you use that? Well, if you ever sit at their computer, you just put a period in front of the command name, and it'll automatically activate that command for you. Without the period, nothing. They don't have that command. So just a little tip for you.
You know what I like about undefined? You know what I like about undefined?
What do you like about undefined?
I could actually undefine all of the commands back to version 2.17, and then I could use this software like when I learned it.
Like the last version you remember. Okay. One more little trick, and then we'll move into some tips. You all know that you can, okay, a little tip for you. Hopefully everybody already knows this one, but you know that you can roll your mouse wheel in and out to zoom in and out, but if you double-click your mouse wheel, you will zoom extents. All right, now did everybody see that transition and how it zoomed in like that? That transition is a time transition. You can control the timing of that transition, that zoom effect. The name of the command is VT options. VT options allows you to change the speed of that transition. This is both a tip and a trick. So if you want that speed to be faster, you can pull it up. But if you sit at somebody's computer and maybe slide this bar all the way down to the bottom, then the next time they go to double-click their middle wheel to zoom extents, dun, 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 dun. Just saying, folks, if you feel like doing that. I like keeping mine up fast. Okay, now a couple more commands that are very, very handy inside the program. This is one that I have been asked quite a bit, and for this, let me get into another, let's see, which one is it at? It's one of my bank drawings, and I need to see the headers. Okay, now, let me interrupt one tip with a whole nother tip. I'm having to turn off and on layers. I'm having to switch layers. I'm having to work with layers all the time. Layers. Every time you draw something, you need to make sure that you're on the appropriate layer. I come over here to the annotate ribbon, and I want to put some text in, and I'm going to click the text. Whoops, what layer am I in? So I got to go back to the home ribbon. I've got to switch to a particular layer. Then I got to go back to the annotate ribbon. Layers are critically important, but they're also a hassle. Now, I know that I could grab the layers panel and drag it out in the middle of my screen here if I wanted to. Okay, that could work, but it's still, that's a little bit of a hassle in and of itself.
It's in the way.
It's in the way. I don't want to do that. So how do I get my layers available? Here's another little tip for everybody. If you right-click your little layers activation drop-down tool, you'll see where you can add it to the quick access toolbar. Quick access toolbar is available in every command, in every one of your ribbons, everywhere. So guess what? There's my layers. I go over to the annotate ribbon. There's my layers. I go over to the output ribbon. There's my layers. They're always there. You can do that to any command, by the way. If you use a particular command exclusively, you can right-click and add it to the Quick Access toolbar. That way you don't have to type it in or go find it anywhere else. But I love it for layers, throwing it up there to add it to the Quick Access toolbar. Find that a really handy little tool set. Now that I've got them up in there, I need to turn on my headers and turn off my doors. Because something that we need to do very frequently is I need to get areas of each one of these rooms. There's a couple of ways you can do it. Now, some people know that you can use the hatch command, and the hatch command will report areas. But you know what? I don't want a hatch. I just want the area. I want a boundary. So there is a command that's been around for a number of years inside of AutoCAD called bpoly. Whoops, if I type it correctly. bpoly, boundary polygon. Dialog box looks similar to the hatch command. Very easy tool set to do. Do you want to use that island detection? No, I don't want it to pick up the text. What type of object do I want? Polylines, etc. Hit OK, and it acts just like the hatch command. So, like, whoops, and I put it up here. Like everything else, maybe I want to put this on its own layer. So I'm going to put this on a miscellaneous layer and use my bpoly command. I'm going to hit OK, pick a spot inside here, and you'll notice it acts just like the hatch. It's lighting everything up, just like the hatch command. When I hit Enter, I've got a polyline, instant polyline that closes it just like the hatch command would. So if you need areas, if you need polylines rather than hatch patterns, bpoly command, really, really handy little tool.
That's fabulous.
That's a great one. Here's another thing.
Loans.
Yeah, I need to edit a piece of text. I need to edit that piece of text. I need to edit that piece of text, and I need to edit that piece of text. You all know that you can just double-click a piece of text, and you can go into the text editor, get out of the text editor. Now, if these were all M text, I'm not going to try it with my single-line text. So what I'm going to do, this is single-line text, by the way. Did you notice that? When I double-click that, the ribbon didn't change. It's old D text. Ugh. You get into drawings, it's got old D text. I want the ribbon to change. I want all of my text commands, available for me. Well, first tip is I've got in my Express tools. Now, those of you with AutoCAD LT don't have Express tools, so sorry. Avert your eyes.
Yeah.
Close your ears, something like that. But in your Express tools, you got a neat little tool set to convert text to M text. And I hit that, and it will convert that piece of text to M text using the whatever the style is. Now, you don't want to do that to all of these, because if I do that to all of these, it'll try to turn them into one paragraph. That would be bad. But I can convert multiple pieces of text into M text by using that command. Now, what does that mean? I can double-click that piece of text, and my ribbon changes, and I get all of the cool M text commands. So that's the first part of the tip. Second part of the tip. People have often asked, all right, that's great, Warren, but I need to edit all 4 of these pieces of text and maybe add a number, add a letter, do something. So do I have to double-click each one at a time, type in the value, get out, double-click the next one?
I hope not.
I hope not. Here's a little trick a lot of people don't know. If you grab all of your text and you come over to my favorite palette, the Properties window, and you look at the contents where it says Varies, well, I don't want to change the contents of all of these to the same thing, but what I want to do is I want to use this little button. This is the equivalent of the ellipses or the preview button. You're going to click that button, and it's going to go into the editor for the first piece of text. Everybody seeing that? The editor for the first piece of text? And I can type in whatever I want to, like the number, and then as soon as I get out of that, it goes into the editor for the next piece of text. Type in my number, get out of that, goes into the editor for the next piece. So this is a recursive text edit command.
A
This
what?
is a recursive text edit command. You like that?
I do.
Alrighty.
The proper and well-formed use of recursive.
I used recursive in a sentence today, so I'm very happy.
That took a drink of water.
That took a drink of
Settle
water.
that one down.
So this is handy. This is going to be handy for at least this version, all the way up through this version. Whether or not you will need to know this trick for the next version remains to be seen.
That's kind of the
Hint, hint.
the danger always.
That's always the danger. You know what, speaking of text, you know when you start the text command and it has the letters A, B, C? So I'm going to actually, let me change my text style and change my text height. And I want to put in some text and whoops, let me get that out of the way. Mine doesn't say ABC, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. How do you change that piece of text? It's a neat little thing. It's great to show off maybe a company name. We used to do this during demos and all of that. Warren, how did you change that? Well, here's how you change that. There's a little known command inside of AutoCAD called MT jig string. Look down there at the bottom of my screen. I just started typing in MTJ and the autocomplete filled it in for me. But this tool has been around for a number of years, MT jig string. You type in MT jig string and you get to edit your jig string. That's what a jig string is. It's a string that pops up there in front of you. And you can get to edit that, type in anything you want, up to 10 characters. So don't get too carried away, but anything you want, up to 10 characters. So it's a neat little tool for people if you want to maybe put your company name in there or say hi there, or you know what, this can kind of flip from a tip to a trick, can't it?
It can.
You can sit at somebody's computer when they're in the bathroom and you can type in anything that you want to in there. So think about it for a few minutes. Now, I'm not going to be held responsible for whatever it is you decide to type in and put on somebody else's computer. So don't tell them I told you about that one.
As funny as it may be.
It's funny as it may be. Okay, a couple more tips for everybody. There's a neat little command inside of AutoCAD, and it's been around for a long time, but a lot of people don't use it. And for this one, maybe I want to get into a different drawing. So when I'm looking at this drawing, I'll see here in my layer list that I've got a whole boatload of layers in here, don't I? So I've got 10,000 layers, just like we're starting to get used to the National CAD Standards Layering Convention. I've got the architectural ANO, dimensions, architectural glazing, G, etc. We've been asked by a lot of people, so what if I just want to remove that architectural, change all the architectural layers over to civil layers or something else like that, replace the A with the C? Well, renaming layers is really pretty easy. Renaming things in AutoCAD, for the most part, is pretty easy. I can come into each one of these layers in my layer properties. I could click slowly inside of it or right-click and rename, and I can type in a new name. And I can do this 200 times. So about somewhere in the 50s, I'm going to want to jump through a window. So how do I take care of that and do it globally? I'm about to give you the answer. Here's the next thing, is I've got a block here, And if I list this block name, it's got this weird name, plant 18-6, and I need to rename a block. Now, renaming layers one at a time, renaming text styles, dimension styles, I can do that one at a time. Renaming blocks, that's really, really difficult to do. So what do I do instead? I'm going to use a command called, quite easily and obviously, rename.
Gosh.
Isn't that a hard one? Rename.
Sometimes you get MT jig string, and other times you just get something nice and easy.
So, exactly. Don't you love that about Autodesk? It's like, let's throw in a really easy one, and then let's throw in a really, really hard one. Some of these command names. Where did they come up with these command names? So the rename command, really handy. First of all, it's about the only way you're going to be able to rename blocks. So if I've got a weird block name like one of these in here, and I'm going, what the heck? That's actually a couch. I can pick that, and I can say I want to rename it to a couch. Hit the rename, and it renames it for me. But what else can I do with it? Well, as I was mentioning a moment ago, I can rename layers. Yeah, I can rename layers too. Warren, I just open up the layer properties. Well, can you do this in the layer properties? I can use wildcards, A-*, and it grabs all of my architectural layers, and I want to change them to civil layers because that's just the kind of person that I am, and I want to rename them to C-*, and I hit rename, and guess what? It just renamed globally a group of layers. So you can use wildcards in this. Woohoo! Quick tip for you, by the way, with wildcards. If you want to learn more about wildcards, you can look them up online. Star means give me everything. You've got a question mark, which means give me any single character. You've got an @ sign, which means give me any single letter. And you've got a pound sign. That's not all of them, but those are some of the more important ones. So the rename command allows you to use wildcards and globally change the names from one thing to another.
That is helpful.
That's a big helpful one right there. How many times does this happen? So while I'm working in my drawing, and you know what? I don't even like this plant. I don't like that table. I'm just going to erase. Whoops! I didn't mean to erase. Whoops! Whoops! Oh, can't erase.
You
redefine.
You undefined.
Isn't that great? Erase. I'm going to redefine.
You tricked yourself.
I tricked myself. Love that. Erase. So I'm going to erase these objects. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start to draw some incredibly smart, intelligent design.
That'll be a first.
Yeah, wouldn't it just? So I'm going to put in a really important design feature right over here, Mr. Happy. And then I'm going to move Mr. Happy over to where he actually needs to go. And I'm going to do some things, and I'm going to spend some time doing some design. Somebody leans over my shoulder and goes, hey, Warren, where'd that plant go? What plant? I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I didn't get rid of any plant. No, you got to get that plant back. So what are your options, folks? Oh, man, the undo command. If I start undoing, I'm going to lose Mr. Happy, and I just spent a half an hour putting him together. There's a little known command. You won't find a button for it, but you have to type it in at the command line. It's been around since, I think, version 2 in AutoCAD called oops. That is the name of the command. Oops.
Oops.
You type in
I
oops.
remember that.
You remember oops?
I do.
That's an old command.
Old command.
Isn't that great?
Golly.
Type in oops, you hit enter, and it will unerase the last thing or things that you erased. So this is a big time saver, folks. You erase something, you start working for a half an hour, and somebody says, hey, bring that back. So I'm having to hit undo, 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 and I don't even know what I'm undoing. I'm having to back up. Oops, we'll bring it back. Now, this only works once. It only works once. So this, I can't oops 500 things, the last 500 commands I've erased. But it's a handy, handy little time saver right there.
And you keep Mr. Happy intact.
That's exactly right. Keep Mr. Happy intact in there. Okay, let's see. A couple other things that I want to talk about quickly inside here. So we got the oops command. And what about, here's another one, since this is a block or any object inside here. Been getting asked this question quite a bit, is what if I want to attach a document to this couch? Maybe it's a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet, or maybe I actually want to attach a website to this of where I want somebody to go buy this couch.
Or maybe you want to stuff some quarters down in the cushions.
So that people can grab them and vacuum out.
Right.
Who vacuums cushions anymore? So maybe I want to attach I don't know, a hyperlink in your insert ribbon. A lot of people don't remember this, but it has been around for a while. It's the hyperlink command. Hyperlink command allows you to attach a hyperlink to any object in the drawing. And by hyperlink, I mean I could put in any text that I want, CAD-1, and then I can type in a web file, www.cad-1.com, and I can attach a hyperlink to any object in my drawing. When you hover over it, it says, hey, it's a CAD-1 website. Control-click to follow the link, and it will automatically go to that document or to that website, which I'm not going to do right now because it minimizes AutoCAD and everything else. But a hyperlink is a cool tool. Not only that, but I can attach a hyperlink to an object and that or a group of objects, and that hyperlink can actually be to a file. So don't forget that you could do this. If I've got, I don't know, bill of materials, Excel spreadsheet, Word document, who knows, any
work
file.
orders, all sorts
Work orders,
of
all
stuff.
kinds of things. You can attach a hyperlink to any object inside your drawing.
This is actually a very, very, very useful one. No kidding, all kidding aside.
All kidding aside, it's a big one. Now the only limitation with with hyperlinks in any respect is you can only attach one hyperlink per object in your drawing. So if somebody says, well, I've got a Excel spreadsheet and a bill of materials and a Word document, you can't attach all of them. You know, you're going to have to get a little bit creative. But think about all the ways that you can attach hyperlinks. You can attach hyperlinks for drawings to other drawings. So what if I've got a detail sheet for this door right over here? I can attach a hyperlink to an AutoCAD drawing and a detail sheet right to that. This is part of what Sheet Set Manager actually already does. So for those of you who have not played with it, this is a handy tool set that you can use. Hyperlinks are great.
And that would be found in our AutoCAD productivity class. Would it not, Warren?
Oh, advanced class.
Advanced class, that's
which,
right.
Yep, we kind of combined productivity and advanced and put them all together.
Names have changed a little bit.
Names have changed, but yep, sheet sets and things like that are all inside the AutoCAD advanced class. Let's see, I got one or two more, and another one is, and this is a couple of new features inside of AutoCAD to take a look at. If you've not played around 2016, we now have a dimension command. Wait a minute, what?
What?
We've already had dimension commands. We've got dimension linear.
What was I
dimension
doing all those years?
Exactly, I was dimensioning. Well, what does this dimension command do? If I start this dimension command, you'll notice that, well, what happens? Well, here's what happens when you hover over a particular object, and I should change my layer back to something that'll be easier to see, shouldn't I? I don't like that color for dimensions, so I'm going to change that color and switch to the dimensions layer. I'm just going to do a dimension command. I hover over an object, and you'll notice that the program will automatically try to figure out what type of dimensioning that I want to activate as I'm hovering over a particular object. I pick that particular object, and the program says, hey, where do you want your dimension to be? So it's no longer, and this will work for every object, so arcs, circles, anything else. I start the dimension command, I hover over the arc, it gives me the radius for the circle, for a line, so it's just basically hovering over, and the program will try to figure out what it is that you're trying to dimension. So it's going to speed up your workflow. So for those of you who have not been using 2016, maybe you're on an earlier version, you haven't upgraded yet, this is a great reason to update if you're doing a lot of dimensioning. Now, yes, your other dimension commands are all still there in the menu, and you can still get to them, but this is a huge time saver. There's actually one or two classes out at Autodesk University this year on how to use this new dimensioning feature inside of AutoCAD.
So that's worth $1,600 to $2,000.
If you're coming out to AU, or if you're thinking of coming out to AU, that could be a good class for you.
That'll save you a bundle.
That'll save you a bundle. Now, if you are, and it is a quick shameless plug, if you are thinking about coming out to Autodesk University this year, all of the techs from CAD-1 are going to be out there, so say hi to us. We're going to have some fun little handouts and giveaways, as we always do. And if you're thinking about coming out, you haven't purchased anything yet, or purchased your ticket, come up to our website. We've got a price break for you. You can purchase your tickets directly from us. Okay, let's see. What else? We've got a few minutes left here. So, and I've got one or two more things that I definitely wanted to talk about. One of them is kind of a tech support thing, and that is a lot of people already know about using the layer isolate command. So I want to use layer isolate, and I want to isolate my walls, and I'm just going to pick it and hit enter. So what happens? Well, back in the old days, it would turn off all the other layers other than what I selected. These days, what it does is it just locks those layers that I did not select. But why did they fade? Well, here's why. In your layers panel of the home ribbon, if you drop or expand the layers panel, you'll see what's called locked layer fading. So this is a relatively new control. When I lock a layer, the program will automatically fade it. Now, the reason I say that this is a tech support thing is that for the people who do like locking and fading, they can adjust how much these lock layers fade and do not fade. But there is a button over here to the left, and sometimes people hit this button accidentally, and they don't know quite what it does. But if you turn off the lock layer fading, and I go to isolate a layer, it almost looks like, well, nothing happens. So I'm going to go isolate a layer. I want to pick this furniture layer in here in the middle of the red, and I'm going to hit enter. But nothing happened. Why not? Because somebody accidentally clicked that lock layer fading. We've been getting that phone call quite frequently. I was asked to throw this out there for tech support. Now, if you want to get rid of this altogether and you're going, you know what, I don't like that whole locking layers nonsense and fading or anything else, so I just wanted to turn off those layers. Okay, if you go into the layer isolate command by typing it into command line, or if you go into the layer properties manager, so I like typing it into command line, lay ISO, and I can come down here to settings at my command line again, and I can choose off, and that will reset things back to the way that they were, so that when I grab a layer like my walls and hit enter, it just turns off all those other layers. Good heavens, look at all this text, it's on the wrong layer. Okay, another neat little tip or trick for you. This has been around for a few years, but how do I grab all of the text that's on the wrong layer? I don't necessarily want to grab all the text, but I want to grab all the text that's on the wrong layer. Well, if I grab one object, I can right-click, and AutoCAD has a select similar in your right-click menu. This will grab all of a particular object on a particular layer of a particular style. Now, select similar does have settings as well, so you'll notice that it just grabbed those objects with that particular style. I can change these settings and say ignore style and just go with layers. So select similar, really another little handy tip. Last one I'm going to show everybody is a relatively new feature. Actually, it's a very new feature. I think it's brand new in 2016. Because sometimes people will get in here and they will want to change a particular system variable, like file DIA or command DIA or mirror text. So sometimes people are changing those, and a lot of the system variables in AutoCAD will actually ride with the drawing file. So that could be really dangerous. I turn off file DIA, and you know, if that's a system variable that rides with the drawing, well, the next time the person opens up this drawing, they could be really goofed up. I mean, Autodesk or AutoCAD has over 700 system variables that control how it works, and a lot of them are stored with the drawing. So just because you change something, that doesn't mean that somebody else is going to want it changed. Maybe you want to change it on your computer, that's fine, but it may ride with the drawing itself. So brand new to 2016, we've got a brand new feature called the System Variable Monitor. What the System Variable Monitor does is it allows CAD managers to build a list of system variables that they're going to want to control and monitor at all times. So if somebody changes something, they can come back in here and reset everything back to the way that they want it to be. They can also enable balloon notifications. So in case somebody decided to change a system variable and reset it, they may get a balloon notification that says, hey, wait a minute, you don't want to do that, or I don't like you doing that. Now, like everything else in AutoCAD, it's not going to prevent somebody from doing something, but it is going to give you a notification, sort of like the new layer notification or XREF notification, something like that. And come in here and reset everything. Everything's really good, cool. So brand new tool, System Variable Monitor. If you've not taken a look at it in 2016, definitely want to take a peek at it.
Folks, we have about 4 minutes left, so do any of you have questions? If you do, type them into the question box, and otherwise, oh no,
too late for questions. Oh. Do you have any questions? As we're wrapping up, I do want to mention, as we're coming through here, that we are going to have some more AutoCAD-based webinars over the next few months. We've got AutoCAD Answers on September 15th. Stan and I'll be sitting in here with Jennifer, and that's a fun one. That's one that's not recorded, and it's one where you just fire off any question about AutoCAD that you possibly have, and we will definitely get it answered. Even if our answer is, I have no idea, then that will be a proper answer for you. But we'll try to answer all of your questions. We'll have Jennifer from tech support in here. So if you're having technical issues or something else that you want to ask about, that's definitely, it's sort of like Carfax for AutoCAD. Yeah. And we can be very irreverent, which is why it's not recorded.
That's right.
And we will also tell you, exactly the truth and what we think and how we feel. So if you've got any questions, AutoCAD Answers, that is on September 15th. A couple more AutoCAD-based webinars coming up in the near future. On October 6th, I'm going to be hosting a webinar for tool palettes, one of my favorite tools inside of AutoCAD. Tool palettes, what can they be used for? How can you use them to manage standards or to assist users and to keep users using the appropriate tool sets? Tool palettes, definitely the thing to take a look at.
We've done these before, and there's a big audience for them, and it's a really good webinar, so
definitely want to take a look at that. And then in December, we're going to have the basics of 3D. I just want to show people a couple things that you can do in 3D. We've got a full 3-day class for AutoCAD 3D, but a lot of times people say, well, I just want to draw a box, right? I just want to change a couple of settings and look at this thing in 3D, or how do I take this 2D object and convert it to 3D? So I'm going to show you a couple of basics in 3D just to kind of get a feel for what you can do in AutoCAD 3D.
And most, but not all, but most of our webinars are recorded, and they are on our YouTube page. We probably need to put that one up there on that little.
Yeah, we probably should put our YouTube page up there as well. So we are on Facebook and Twitter. You can, if you want to know more about our webinars, by the way, you can come up to our website, CAD-1.com, and learn what webinars are coming up for the different applications. We also have our next shameless plug that we always like to throw in here.
Yes, sir.
Classroom and online training, in-person mentoring programs, or online mentoring programs. Basically, if you need to get trained on something, you don't have to come into a full 3 to 5 day class on it. We can teach you how to do just about anything you want, either on-site, online, coming in here for a few hours, or if you want to, you can take the full 3 to 5 day class in any of our applications that we teach.
And this is award-winning training.
Award-winning training. We have gotten, we have won awards from our students, our student evaluations, and Autodesk and Gilmore Global have awarded us Autodesk Training Center of the Year twice in a row now for all of North America. So our training doesn't suck.
Nope. All right, folks. We appreciate you joining us today, and as you file slowly out of the room, totally scratching your head as to what just happened, we will bid you adieu and look for you in the next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.